Alright, Nation, so I know I'm about 24 hours late on this piece of news, but we kind of have to talk about it. For those of you who are unaware, you guys know my position on Slayer. I think they're kind of overrated, blah, 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 all this horse shit. But Dave Lombardo, their drummer, was just dropped from their Australian tour. Basically told he was not going to be sitting behind the drums for this tour by the other members of the band. And the reason why this occurred is because of a disagreement that they had over the financial status and how the finances are sort of being divided by the band. It was something where Dave had kind of come to terms at the end of 2012 that he wasn't getting paid very well. In fact, he was getting paid very poorly for his position, and not to mention the whole entire band had only about 10% of the revenue share. So 90% of it was going to things such as touring costs, travel expenses, venue costs, basically the different costs that keep a band running. And he had a model that was a little bit, I guess, better. You know, he was able to sit down, think about it, and notice that this really wasn't something that was very conducive for the entire band. He found something better, presented it to Carrie and Tom and the guys, and basically was told he was not going to be donning the sticks in Australia. But he wasn't told by Carrie and Tom, he was told by lawyers. Yeah, this is bound to get ugly really, really fast. Now, we all know that Dave kind of has a little bit of a decorated past with Slayer. He's kind of, came and went every so often, and he's had some disagreements with this topic with the band before, so this isn't necessarily the first time. I wanted to gauge your reaction on what you think about this, but I also want to present a little bit of different information. Mainly a lot of opinion, somewhat. There's a little bit of economics that maybe I'd like to present to this. This is basically my opinion on the matter, but laced with some facts that might be pertinent. Now, a band is kind of like a business whenever you get to the, I guess, the elevated status that Slayer has accomplished. You know, they're one of the big four of thrash, not to mention they are still one of the most commercially viable bands in the heavy metal scene today. Yeah, you would think that after all of this time that maybe this would have waned a little bit, but it's certainly not the case. Slayer is still immensely popular. Tons of people love them. Tons of people buy their records. I still have demands every single day I go to work for Slayer. CDs and even merchandise, which the merchandise we unfortunately don't carry. Now, because of that, there is a lot of different money that's coming in from different directions. But whenever you strike it out on the road and you are going to be playing these large ventures, these large festivals, and these different types of things, there are a lot of expenses that you have to take care of. You have to take care of your travel expenses. You have to take care of your touring expenses, which means paying the roadies, paying the crew, having the stages set up. There's some set building that could somewhat be be attributed to this. There's equipment, transportation, there's paying the venue, because sometimes you do have to do that. They're not just going to book you because of who you are. They are a business as well, so they have to be getting something out of the deal as well. Now, these are just some of the associated costs that are a part of that. Whenever it comes to money that's streaming in for you guys, there's of course ticket sales, CD sales, merchandise sales, anything that perhaps you're getting from your website, whether it be kickbacks, residuals, advertising, whether or not you have different bargaining or different endorsements, rather, from different companies, guitar companies, drum companies, microphone companies, etc. Kickbacks for whether or not your songs are being used in movies or whether or not they're being used in television shows, different ways in which the media is being used, different ways in which the media is being distributed. All of that has to do with a lot of fundamental economics. Whenever you have a system where 90% of your target income or your gained income is going toward these associated ventures, and only 10% is actually going to the band themselves, the four members of Slayer, to divide amongst themselves, you can pretty much guarantee that your standard of living is not necessarily going to be as glamorous as potentially it could be. That means that there's a lot of people that are getting money that perhaps do not have as large of a hand in some of these ventures as they really should be. And that could easily be the label, that could easily be production, that could easily be associated debts that need to be paid off through the past, whatever it may be. Now, 10% may not seem like it's a very large number. And you know what? It probably is not a large number, because it's not like Slayer is, Justin Bieber or something like that, where literally there's, it's not like there's Slayer notebooks, Slayer eraser heads. There's, you're not exactly going to be like Slayer, figurines, Slayer blankets, Slayer pillows, Slayer underwear. I mean, there might be, but hell, I don't know. This is something where we're talking about a little bit smaller amounts. And here's what I don't really like about this whole situation. It does seem to be centered around money, and a lot of people have that idea that that's not metal or anything like that. Let's throw that out the window, because you have to understand that there is a little bit of a business side that's associated with being in a band. You're not going to be in a band that's touring and, eating for very long if you don't have a little bit of an understanding of money, or at least somebody alongside of you that does. My problem with this whole situation is that Dave actually had a proposal that was in hand that he was speaking and, reflecting to these gentlemen, the other members of Slayer, and it seemed as though they just completely and totally brushed him off. Now, do I know whether or not Dave's proposal was A, feasible, or B, even doable? No, that information hasn't been released. So for all I know, this is something that he proposed it, but it was just completely unfeasible. It had absolutely no ability to working, and in fact, if anything, they would have lost more percentage points off of that 100% pie chart hole, as opposed to gaining it. Now, it's also one half about also the fan experience, which Dave, of course, is very pro to the fans. So maybe that's something where there are even more costs involved, or maybe it's something where certain things were going to be cut. Either way, it seems like certain people in the band, whether it's in the band or the label or something, there seems to be control in one portion that doesn't seem to be, kind of encircling the main players in this situation. It seems like perhaps some people have more eggs in the omelet than others. It almost seems like certain people know that they have other forms of money coming in, and because of that, the 10% is a pretty sweet gig. What is being made is feasible. What is being made is also very livable, sustainable income. And it might not be the case for everybody. So that's kind of where it becomes a little bit fucked up. It also becomes fucked up because basically Dave just proposed a counter-proposal to the current state of affairs, basically going against the status quo. Basically saying that the status quo right now isn't necessarily helping everybody. And basically the reaction that he got was, you're not even going to work Australia. You're out of a job. You're not getting paid for that. It's pretty fucked up. You can actually apply this to just about anything in the social or economic climate right now. You can apply this to how customers are unwilling to diversify their shopping experiences, where they only decide to go to the status quo of a large chain such as Walmart or Kmart or Target, something like that, specifically Walmart, as opposed to doing what people used to do in the past and kind of supporting their local businesses and traveling 7 different places in order to get 7 different items instead of getting 7 items in one place just because it's convenient. You could actually apply this to the political spectrum, that it is, politically feasible to do things one way and keep it that way, go for a tax cut instead of actually trying to stimulate the economy, simply because that's what they've done for thousands and thousands of years, or however long it's been. You could really apply this just to anything. Rabble-rousing, or kind of going one step beyond in order to try to improve a formula, always is met with resistance whenever the people that are, I guess, getting the most out of the current formula don't want change, because they're already getting the maximum out of it. They're already getting that and more. So it seems as though there's a bit of a conundrum here, that some people had a little bit more, to do with this and have a little bit more of a hand in the cookie jar than others. What do you guys think? I think that this is pretty fucked up. Do you guys think this is fucked up? This is fucked up. Alright, Nation, so I know I'm about 24 hours late on this piece of news, but we kind of have to talk about it. For those of you who are unaware, you guys know my position on Slayer. I think they're kind of overrated, blah, 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 all this horse shit. But Dave Lombardo, their drummer, was just dropped from their Australian tour. Basically told he was not going to be sitting behind the drums for this tour by the other members of the band. And the reason why this occurred is because of a disagreement that they had over the financial status and how the finances are sort of being divided by the band. It was something where Dave had kind of come to terms at the end of 2012 that he wasn't getting paid very well. In fact, he was getting paid very poorly for his position, and not to mention the whole entire band had only about 10% of the revenue share. So 90% of it was going to things such as